Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Palikari Business Podcast. I'm your host, Abby, joined by my co-host and husband, Nick. Palikari is a Greek word that means a person who has achieved great things beyond their years. On this podcast, we hope to help you achieve great things by having conversations with successful business owners, entrepreneurs, and influencers from all walks of life. If you want to learn how to start a successful business, grow in leadership skills, or receive practical encouragement on chasing your dreams, this is the podcast for you. Our guest today is Matias, a former lawyer who was dissatisfied with the legal profession and decided to pursue his passion in helping others. Now he is a life purpose coach who helps professionals who are dissatisfied with their job discover the type of career that will bring them joy, meaning, and purpose. Today's episode is super encouraging, so we hope you enjoy it. Awesome. So, Matias, can you just share a little bit about yourself and how you got to where you are now?
Sure, absolutely. So I used to work as an attorney. I lived in the States for most of my life. I studied psychology before becoming a lawyer because I really like working with people. But I had always known that I would like to go to law school. And so, started law school. There were some things about the legal profession I didn't like. And then I started practicing as an attorney. And then I found more things I didn't enjoy. I found it pretty competitive. I found that you don't really work with clients all that much, and that your main client is legal briefs, writing documents and just being in front of the judge. And so it wasn't about helping people as much as I had thought it would be. And so, I decided that this wasn't for me. And one day I ended up quitting my job and, went through this journey of self-discovery, self-exploration to try to figure out who I was and what was important to me. And then I spoke with a career coach, and this person suggested that I could be a life coach. And I never knew that you could make a living out of that. I've always felt like I was a good coach. I coached in the past. I had coached track and field, pole vaulting, and different things, but I never knew I could make a living out of it. And then, sure enough, I got my certification. I started coaching, and I've never looked back ever since.
That's so awesome.
That's
I really
really cool.
love that. Yeah. So obviously, when you left a very successful career, that was probably pretty scary. So how did you handle that difficulty and kind of the uncertainty of what was coming next and how stable it was going to be?
Yeah, I think you're exactly right when you talk about fear. That's definitely something that I experienced. I had to work so hard to obtain my law degree and to get my license, pass the bar, and all these things that, I had felt that I had invested so much that it wouldn't be a smart decision for me to do something else. But I just found myself so dissatisfied. Nothing wrong with the legal profession. There's people doing wonderful things and people that really enjoy their job. But for me, it just wasn't fulfilling and I wasn't happy. So at first, my level of discomfort wasn't so big. It was probably smaller than my fear. And then those things kind of switched places. I was more dissatisfied. And so I realized that I had to take action. Despite the fears, I realized that, we only have this life as far as we know. And so might as well make the best of it while we have it. And I wanted to help people in the right way and also live a happy life for myself. So that was a big motivator for me.
That's really good.
So, yeah, in the early stages of the transition, I'm just curious how you were feeling through all of that too, like whenever you already had made the decision to leave, and you were getting going in your other business. Did you ever feel like, oh man, I totally made a mistake here because now I'm trying to work and rebuild? And
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know that I felt that I had made a mistake necessarily, but I really felt a lot of doubt and uncertainty and fear as to what am I going to do? Because I had decided I'm not going to do law. This isn't for me. But then I thought, what am I good for? That's what I've known my whole life. And then you find yourself having almost an identity crisis because you're like, I'm not a lawyer, then who am I? So there was definitely a struggle. I'm not going to say that it was an easy transitions by any means. I did experience a lot of uncertainty and fear, but I had hope. I had faith that I would eventually find something. And then, as soon as the difficult part for me was not it was in between uh, quitting my job and in between finding that I wanted to be a life coach. Life coach has had a lot of struggles, but at least not the uncertainty. I knew that this was for me and it feels right. So that middle gap is kind of what's scary. And so now that I've gone through the process, I made a lot of mistakes. When I work with people, I make sure that they know what they want to do. They're secure about it. They've tested it out in some way, and then they can slowly transition into that career. I wouldn't recommend doing as I did, quit your job and then figure it out. So figure it out first,
Yeah.
and then slowly
Yeah.
transition.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's some good advice.
That gives me a question too. When you decided you wanted to start coaching and you knew that was for you, what gave you the confidence that that was the right path and that was what you wanted to do?
Yeah, that's a great question. So as you can imagine, starting a new career can be a little challenging. And I believed I had it in me. Of course, when you first start anything new, there's a little bit of an imposter syndrome going on. But I started recording my sessions, and within the first one, it was messy. I made some mistakes. There was a lot of room for improvement, but I saw myself coaching, and I saw the difference that I made in people. And I could, once you're in it, it's difficult to be objective and really evaluate how good you are. So I recorded the session, I took a step back, and I really analyzed it objectively. And I saw myself, and I was like, okay, you're doing, not to toot my own horn, but I was, again, from that perspective, I was like, okay, you're doing good. These people are really getting value from your services. And so that's when I was sure that, okay, I'm all in on this. This is going to work.
Mm-hmm. That's
That's
really good.
awesome. That's cool.
Yeah, so then what advice would you give someone who is unhappy with their career, their job, or something maybe they've been pursuing their whole life and they realize, wow, I actually don't like this? What advice would you give them?
Yeah, I often tell my clients to live by their own definition of success, realize what's important to them, and run their own race. Because a lot of times, I fell victim to this. You get caught up in your profession, and you compare yourself to those around you. And in my case, they were making a lot of money and being very successful. They were in court and they wore fancy suits, and I was like, oh, I think that's what I wanted, and I got caught up by just my peers, and I was living by their definition of success. But then when I was able to take a step back and analyze what was important to me, that's when I really found something that gave me joy. I decided that my calling is to help people, not so much to have a fancy job and have the prestige of having a fancy career, but to help people, and I wasn't living by my definition of success. So I encourage people to take a look at their lives, make a list of their values and what's important in their lives, and see if their career aligns with their values or not.
That's really good. Yeah, so what sort of, if you were encouraging somebody to define success for themselves, what are some questions that you think they should ask themselves or how they should evaluate that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in terms of a career, see what you value. Do you want to have flexibility in your job, or do you want to make a lot of money? Or do you want to have the prestige of a career, or do you want to make an impact in the world? And so these are all different values that we have to balance out. And so list what's important to you in your career and see if what you're doing right now aligns with that. That's professionally, but also look at what your interests are. What do you like to do? How do you like to spend your time? And try to find something that it's as close as that as possible. Obviously, we have to make a living, and work a lot of times is it's a job, and you have to do things that you don't like, but you have to assess whether or not it's a normal process of growth, doing things that we're uncomfortable with, or if you really don't enjoy what you were doing and you're living in opposition to your beliefs. So it's a delicate balance, I would say.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Yeah, so do you think a lot of people tend to kind of this is from my personal experience. It seems like people get caught up in, like you were talking about, the fear and like wanting to be like everybody else, comparing themselves, wanting that money or success or the position. Do you think people will deny their values or deny their own interests quite often for the comfort of those things.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree because certain things can be alluring, and society gives certain things a lot of value. So maybe your peers are telling you, "Oh, you're so successful. You have a great job. You have all these things that if people are telling me these things, therefore there must be some level of truth to it." And so that's why I go back to see what's important to you. And it is difficult because you're balancing two things. You may have a job that is, it meets a lot of criteria on paper. It may look great, and then you have that on one hand, and then on the other hand there's other things that you would like, and the transition there is the unknown. It's the fear of what's going to happen. So I often talk to people that yes, they're very miserably comfortable. They're comfortable in what they have, but they could do better, and they could live a more fulfilling life, but that takes a little bit of discomfort that some people are not always ready to take. In my case, it took waking up, not even waking up. I heard a phrase the other day that really related to me, and it said, stress is when you wake up in the middle of the night screaming and you realize you haven't been to sleep. So I was like, I woke up one night, I was like, oh, I'm so stressed about all the things I have to do at work tomorrow, and then was I sleeping at all? So when I noticed that it started impacting my mental health, that's when I realized that it wasn't serving me, even if it was fulfilling a lot of the things that I liked. Long term, it wasn't going to be sustainable. And so I decided I might as well take action now, because careers take time. And so the longer I'm in a career that I don't like, the least amount of time I will get to invest in something that I'm really passionate about.
Yeah, that's really good. I kind of made me wonder too. I don't know if you've ever dealt with someone like this, but what advice would you give? Say somebody did leave their career and maybe they started their own business, or they started pursuing something that they thought they were really passionate about, and they actually discovered that that's not something that they were passionate about. Um, I know it's hard to take that step, and it's really difficult worrying about what people might think. So when you're far down that road of starting your own thing and then you realize, oh my gosh, I actually don't like this, people kind of tend to get stuck and think, oh, well,
Mm-hmm.
I went off in this one direction where
Mm-hmm.
nobody thought I would succeed, and now they're going to think I failed if I back out. What advice would you give somebody who's worried about something like that?
Yeah, that's a difficult situation. Again, we're so caught up in what everybody else is going to think, and once you make an announcement to the world that this is what I'm doing now, and then people support you,
Yeah.
you have all this
Yeah.
pressure to do what you've already said that you would do. We want to live by our own lives, but it's basically the same analysis that you do the first time, you do it the second time around. If you left a career you were unhappy, and you did all this job, and you're in a career you don't like, then that job almost seems futile. So don't give up. Enjoy the journey. A lot of times the obstacle is the way. And so in my pursuit, after taking what I thought were a lot of wrong turns, I did a lot of different things that I thought, oh, this was going to be it, and it wasn't. And so I felt like I was wasting a lot of times. You'd be surprised. Once you do find that career, you're going to see that all the quote unquote wrong turns that you made were not. They were just making you
Yeah.
stronger, giving you resilience, giving you tools to deal with our adversity. So don't think
That's really good.
that um, that making a mistake, so to speak, quote unquote, is always bad. They say that
Yeah.
no good sailor was made on calm seas, and so all the adversity that we face and all the struggles are only making us stronger. So I try to have clients focus on that, and just in terms of mindset, try not to view discomfort or adversity as a negative. See it as a good. Okay, embrace all the negative and use it as ammo to fuel you into becoming a stronger person. It's like battle
Yeah.
scars.
Yeah, I think that's a big problem that people deal with is they go through these problems and they just say, "Oh, they have the mindset of I'm going to put it behind me. I'm never going to look at it again, it's
Yeah.
behind me now. Tomorrow's a new day," which sometimes is good to give yourself that little pep
Mm-hmm.
talk, but if you don't think about those things, you're not growing and learning from them, So
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
good to also, like you said, not even see them as a bad thing from the start, but just say, this is a learning experience, and take
Yeah,
home your lesson.
yeah, absolutely. Use that adversity to fuel you. There's a good study that talks about when we do something we like and we get rewarded for it, we kind of lose interest in it. And so a lot of time when people are exercising or they're doing something that's difficult, they focus so much on the reward, and that really takes away from the process, from making it enjoyable. You're doing it, and you're suffering through it, thinking of what's going to come next. So if you're able to change your mindset and see the struggle, again, the obstacle is the way. If you see all the negatives as a positive, as making you stronger, as it's a sign that things are working. If you're experiencing discomfort and adversity, embrace it and say, good, I'm becoming stronger. But it is true that it starts with that mindset and a perspective
Yeah.
of how we see adversity and struggle.
That's really good. So then in your journey, have there been any obstacles that have come your way or adversities where you've learned a lesson that's really impacted you?
I guess that don't see the struggle as a negative thing. Just know that whatever you're experiencing is helping you become a better person. Like I said,
Yeah.
I did a lot of careers that didn't work out, but now I as I'm working as a coach, I, for some reason, I know that piece of information about business organization, or I know this about website building because I did web website design, and I'm like, how do I know all these things? All those wrong turns, they really
Yep.
they become part of who you are. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you become one dimensional. If you picked your career from the beginning and that's all you've ever done, good for you, But at the same time, it's like you're not very versatile. You don't know how to get back
Yeah.
up when you struggle. I used to do a lot of sports in high school, and I ran track in college, but it was very interesting to me, especially in wrestling, when there were kids that I saw they were unbeaten throughout their entire high school careers. They won every competition, won every battle, everything. They had won it. And then they went to college and they lost for the first time and quit. Now it was the other athletes that were not number one, that had struggled, that had lost, that got back up, that really
Yeah.
made it throughout the continue to compete because they knew what it was like to face adversity. So
Yeah.
so
That's really
I
good.
again I encourage people not to see failure as a negative, but a learning opportunity.
Yeah.
That's really good. That's one of the things I've heard too that really impacted me was that each thing you do leads to the next thing. So no matter what you're doing, even if it's a job you don't like or if it's a mistake you made, that's helping prepare you for where you're going. And you could take all the things you've learned and apply it in different ways. So I really like what you said about not being a one-dimensional person and actually having those experiences and those failures are actually benefiting you and making you more well-rounded and able to even probably understand other people and their struggles better, which is really important. So that was really good.
Yes, definitely. A lot of times my clients come in and tell me, all these, all these things that they do, and they're not bad things. But for example, I encourage all the homework that I give is optional, and so sometimes they come in and they're afraid to tell me that they didn't do a specific task that I said because they went out drinking the night before and they didn't, and they kind of want to keep that behind. But no, embrace all of it, embrace the whole journey. It's okay, the good, the bad. We're not perfect, and so don't think that any one person out there succeeded without making mistakes along the way. Learn from your mistakes. Realize that if you have something important coming up, don't go out drinking the night before. So use
Yep.
use the things that you learn to fuel you, but also learn from your mistakes. So you don't
Yeah.
make the same ones in the future.
Yeah, that's really good. So then, how do you help somebody when they come to you? How do you help them figure out what they want to do, what their passion is?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know, fortunately or unfortunately, but it's not a one size fit for all. So I have a lot of different tools that I help depending on where my clients are in the journey. But roughly speaking, we first look at their current situation and what they don't like about their jobs, what's not working. Then we start visualizing what type of career they would like. Not career necessarily, but what elements would they like to have on their future career? Again, going back to the definition of success. Do they want to make a lot of money? Do they want to have flexibility of schedules? Do they want to contribute to the world? Whatever that is. And then we start analyzing at their talents, their skills, what they can contribute. And that's honestly one of my favorite activities, because I have about 20 to 30 different ways of asking you what you're good at. What are your talents, and like, what are your skills, and what's something that you're good at? A, a lot of different ways of asking those questions. And the client that started by saying, "Oh, I'm not good at anything," we finished a session and they're like, "Oh, look at all these skills." And almost, without trying, like, you see their talents, their skills, their experiences, their accomplishment, and almost by itself, it starts building a map that people can follow. Say, "Oh, okay, I could go in this general direction." And it's not about finding. It's not like you have to go out there and find your passion. It's usually within you. And so my experience has been that it's always in the back of people's heads what they want to do. We just need to search it enough. And the response I often get is like, "Oh, wow, like I thought about that before, but I've never really gave it enough time to see how I can make that my career." So slowly we start figuring out what people are good at and what they want to do. And the answer always comes. We always get closer to the ideal career, from one session to the next.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah, that is really cool. I know this doesn't apply to everyone, but I know a lot of people have these thoughts of, like, maybe they dreamed of, or at least in the back of their mind, like you're saying, their passion. They kind of know what they want to do, but they are too afraid to take the first step even, and then they end up in a safer path that they don't like,
Yeah.
So I think that's something people could benefit a lot from, is just feeling the confidence to take the first step and understand that you don't have to be perfect when you start.
Right.
That you don't have to have it all figured out from the get-go.
Yeah, that's exactly how it is. We're evolving creatures, and we think we like something, and you can tweak certain things to slowly build the type of life that you want. But, like you said about, we don't have to be perfect. Even in regards to fear, it's okay to be afraid. Most people are, and it's okay, and we try to shy away from it. I think, again, if we look at our problems square in the face and say, "Yes, I am afraid, but I will do this no matter what," or I would take steps to minimize the level of fear, then you get closer to your goal without, a lot of times people just don't do things because they're afraid and because they don't want to be afraid. But once you acknowledge your strength and your weaknesses, then you can start working on them instead of just hiding from them for your entire life.
So speaking about strengths and weaknesses kind of made me think of this. When you identify those weaknesses, when you're helping people figure out what they want to do, what their skills and passions are, what do you do? Like, do you give them advice, or what do you do about their weaknesses?
Usually I try not to give a lot of advice. I try to, they say that we like our own answers. And so if I try to push my beliefs and my advice and what I think people should do, then I don't find that to be very, very successful, because then they're living by my definition of success, not theirs. Yeah. And so a lot of times fear is we fear the unknown. Sometimes we don't know why something makes us uncomfortable, and we just assume that the whole situation around it is uncomfortable. So slowly, little by little, we start questioning, what are you afraid of about the situation? You're about to do a presentation. Okay, what are you afraid of? Well, perhaps I'm afraid that I won't remember anything. Okay, what can you do to prepare So you do remember everything. Oh, okay, I can take step 1, 2, and 3 to prepare. The main thing that we do is we question to really get at the root of the problem, and then we can address it. But if we don't know why something is problematic, why something is causing fear, then we don't know exactly how to address it. And I find that just even talking about it gives people certain strength and certain fortitude to take on the task. Once it's out there, a lot of times I find that people say it and they sort of coach themselves, and they're like, oh, come on, you shouldn't be afraid of that. And so it's this process of self-exploration and really analyzing what's at the root of fear or discomfort that really gives you some clarity to be able to address it. So the main thing we do is we question it. Why does it make you afraid? Oh, for this reason, but why? And so I think just shining a light on our fears certainly makes them disappear.
Yeah.
That's really good. And I like it because it's not about just exposing the fear or trying to ignore it or just get over it. It's about actually finding a solution for it. And like you said, figuring out the root, then finding a solution. And I really like that because it's like that's something anybody can do, is just think about, okay, why am I afraid of this, and what can I do to get past this fear? What do I need to put in place to help myself with that? That's a really good practical tip.
Yeah, I think that's something really simple that people overlook because it's so simple. It just doesn't seem like the solution, is, oh, I should think about how I'm feeling about this and really actually analyze and figure out, where it's coming from and stuff. So
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. Just saying it out loud brings clarity, and people overcome. Not always. Again, I think fear can be good to a certain degree. Usually, when you're afraid, it's because this is important to you. Something is at stake. So again, I try to have people not look at fear as a negative thing. Again, see, it means that you want this. It's your mind telling you that the stakes are high, and it's good. You should embrace that. If you're doing something scary, you're growing as a person. So don't. At the end of it all, if we analyze the problem, we try to address step by step, and you still feel fear, good. Embrace it. That's part of being human. We have emotions, and that's okay.
Yeah. That's really good. Yeah, so then another thing I kind of want to touch on with you is I think in today's society there's a lot of distractions or things that make us procrastinate, or just things that we can even like distract ourselves from how we're feeling or the things we're dealing with. So how do you deal with all the noise, and how do you kind of, rather than feeling overwhelmed, how do you be sure to actually make the most of your time every day?
Yeah, time management is a big deal for my clients. Generally speaking, one step at a time, but also prioritize. A lot of times we spend a lot of time working and getting nothing accomplished because we do things that make us feel like we're occupied, but not necessarily what's best for us. So I have, everyone says you should do a to-do list, and you should, but do a to-do list of what's the most important things that you need to do. And if, let's say, you struggle with, you can only sit for a very short period of time, okay, then tackle the most difficult things. And then even if you don't get a lot done, let's say you accomplish the 3 most important things, and let's say it usually doesn't take a lot of times. Let's say you worked for an hour, but you accomplish 3 big important things that are going to move you closer to your goals, then that's time well spent.
Yeah.
I also recommend people implementing the Pomodoro method. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but
yeah, we have.
Yeah, okay. For your listeners who don't know, it's basically the importance of incorporating rest into your routine. It's so important. So a lot of us feel like, oh, I have to work for 4 hours straight. Well, a lot of times that's not very productive, even though you feel you've been busy the whole time. And so work in chunks. I believe the method is work for 25 minutes, rest for 5. And again, work for 25, rest for 5. And you do that 4 times, and then you take a longer break, which should be from 30 minutes to an hour, and then repeat. If you're not used to implementing that method, I recommend starting slow and doing maybe 2 to 3 sets a day, and then 4, and then 5. So slowly, any change that you want to incorporate in your life, do it slowly. But I find that my clients really benefit from being, because you talked about distractions, and it's easy to, should I work on this or that or the other, and we let external things dictate how we're going to spend our day. But if you have a period where you turn off your phone from whatever 8 or 9 in the morning until noon, and you focus just on the things that you decide are on your list, being disciplined and having a specific method of working, then you can get a lot more accomplished. But you're the one that chooses what to work on. You're not being reactive, but more proactive.
That's really good. Yeah. So then that kind of made me think of another question. Do you ever have clients, or maybe just you've struggled with this even, where no matter how much you get done in a day or how productive you try to be, you still beat yourself up like, I didn't get enough done. I'm not going to be successful enough. Especially like I've noticed with videos online all over the place, you see these people saying you have to work harder than everybody else if you want to succeed. So that can kind of create this mindset of I'm never working hard enough. And I tend to know that I even beat myself up for things like that. So how do you deal with that, or advise your clients on how to deal with that sort of thing?
Yeah, that's a great question. I have a completely different approach. There have been a lot of studies that back in the day, they used to say that we're driven by reward and by punishment. You do something good, you get a reward. You do something bad, you get punished. But then we're finding more and more that punishment doesn't really work as well as that we used to think that it did. And it's more debilitating than it is encouraging. So my general approach, a lot of coaches will tell you, you need to work hard and you need to sacrifice and you need to do all these things. That to me is not generally the approach that I would want to do. Maybe if you want to be the best of the best of the best of the best, okay, maybe you need to suffer every day. But I think that if you apply compassion into your life and you celebrate the victories that you've accomplished, don't look so much at what you're lacking, but look at all the things you have accomplished. I'm sure you guys have heard of all the benefits of gratitude and how good it is for longevity, reducing stress, reducing blood pressure. Gratitude is wonderful for all those things. And part of that is being grateful to yourself and say, to me, the story that you said, this person worked all day long, they got so much accomplished. Good. To me, that's a victory. So I think, and that's what I do a lot with my clients. I help them celebrate their successes, because we always focus on what we're lacking. But if you take the time to look at, you have a to-do list, okay, and you finish it, go back and look at your notes and see how many things you have crossed off your list, and see how much you've accomplished. Because we always look at what the problems we have right now and the things we have left, which is good to drive you forward. But if you find yourself that that's just debilitating you, then perhaps you should take a more positive approach to it and see how much you have done and take pride in that and be happy for it. Because being frustrated, it's good to feel a little bit bad because we can do more. But if that becomes debilitating, then it does the opposite. So maybe getting a little bit accomplished and celebrating your success and celebrating your victories is going to motivate you more than feeling crappy about all the things you have left. So I definitely take the approach of kindness and compassion to yourself more than be hard and punish yourself when you don't get things done.
I really like that. That's really good.
That's very true.
Yeah. So then what kind of habits or daily things do you do to kind of help yourself stay on track and make sure you're living with, you had mentioned a sense of urgency and making sure that you're making the most of your time every day?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, gratitude is a great place to start. My morning routine, I come in, I have a lot of things that I learned throughout the years that are good for your health. Light exposure is one of them. You should be exposed to light on a daily basis as soon as you wake up. A little bit of exercise, doesn't have to be much. 2 to 3 minutes is enough to get the benefits that you need. Obviously, to-do list, Pomodoro, and there's a lot of tips and tricks. But when we talk about a sense of urgency, the thing that has really motivated me the most to get things done has been contemplating my own mortality. And there's a Stoic principle called memento mori, and it basically means remember that you're gonna die. And so what if when done properly, it's not supposed to be depressing, but instead give you, like I said, sense of urgency. Realize that every day counts. You don't know how much longer you're gonna be in this life, and you don't want to look back with regrets of how many things you didn't get done. And so what I do with my clients, I basically have them map out their life, their life in months, and basically mark out all the time that they have lived already. They cross it out, and in North America, people live from the average life expectancy is 82 years old, and so I have them cross. We have a graph of 100 years, and we have them subtract the time that has passed, the time after 82 years, and then a third of that you're going to spend sleeping. And so you're like, oh, I'm in my 20s, 30s, 40s. I have a lot of time left. Yeah, well, but if you're going to spend a third sleeping or commuting or being in a job that you don't like, then you really see how short life is. And so that makes you, like we said, take a sense of urgency and want to take action to make the best of every day.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like that. And it's about kind of like you're saying, like seizing the day, like not just floating by and thinking, oh yeah, I'll get to what I've been dreaming of doing, or I'll do that later on in life, or right now I'm working this job I hate to build up my wealth or whatever, and then I'll do what I like. It's like, no, it's much more valuable to start pursuing those things now, because like you said, you never know how much time you have, and it's much better to live a life where you were fulfilled and you felt satisfied with the choices you made, as opposed to, and I would say even it's better to live a life filled with a bunch of failures from things you tried, even if it didn't work out, as opposed to having a bunch of regrets at the end, like you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. When we first experience failure, we experience a lot of discomfort, but you're right. In reality, think of all the things that you fail in your life. And for me, at least, I kind of laugh at myself. Hey, you tried that thing that you thought you were going to be good at. Oh, you failed terribly. And then just have a laugh about it. We're not here to be perfect. We're not here to like live life and not make mistakes. That's part of the beauty of living. Go be messy, make mistakes, fall, get back up. That's life, and try to approach life with that sense of like a child with curiosity, that they run too fast and they fall. Like there's something special about that, about like just try your best, but at least go and fail many times, but at least continue to try. So
Yeah, that's really good.
That's really
I
good.
really like your approach, everything you've said about living out of compassion and urgency and all those things. So I wanted to ask, what are your core values towards coaching people, and how you see people when you're coaching them?
Yeah, I think a big one is empathy and compassion. You don't want to be there and feel sorry for them. Oh, you must be going through a really difficult time. Poor you. That's not the approach. But definitely be understanding. Like I said, my approach is not to be a hard coach and you got to be better, you got to be strong, you got to be faster. No, none of that. Understand that we are humans. We're imperfect. We have a lot of imperfections. Even if we have the best of intentions, there are days where we just fall short. So for me, it's really understanding the human aspect of it and try to motivate through reward and not punishment, like I said before.
Yeah, that's good. And my last question is, how would you say somebody is sitting on the sidelines, it's a family member or a friend, and they see their friend or something trying to pursue what they want to do and leaving a career, and they're going through this scary time. How should that person support their friend?
Yeah, there's two things that I feel like people really need and that coaches are good at. Accountability and support. And support is a big one. And I should say it comes first. First, again, talk to that person and see what they're needing and see what's important in their life and why they want to do what they want to do, and really try to understand them. And then after they have had that opportunity to stop feeling sorry about their situation, then they're a little bit more empowered to start taking action. And then when they start taking action, I feel like we all benefit from a little bit of accountability. So maybe checking in with that person on a weekly basis. Hey, I heard that this is what you wanted to do. Again, not what we think it's best for them, but I believe that you said that you wanted to take this action. Have you done it? And then if they haven't done it, then again, compassion and empathy, and understand why didn't they do it, and what else are you missing, why did you fall short this week, and what can we do to set you up for success so next week you get it done. So a lot of, I don't want to say forgiveness, because it's their own life. Like, you don't have to forgive a person for doing what they do, but understanding that we're not perfect, and we all deserve second, third, and fourth chances, because it's a long journey to success, and so we might as well make it as easy as possible as we strive to be the best version of ourselves.
Yeah, that's really good. And so if somebody wanted to contact you or start doing coaching with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm offering a 30-minute consultation for your listeners. My website is matiasbichara.com. And then I assume you guys have show notes? Maybe we can put them on there. Okay, excellent. So we'll put them in the show notes. I'll also put my Instagram, which is coach.matiasb, and they can find me. And there I give little tips and tricks to create system and habits, but more importantly, to make work feel like play. And in my session, we talk about, again, it's mostly questions. I try not to tell people what they should do, but I ask a lot of questions to make them reflect as to whether or not they're satisfied in their career or not. And so we also look at what the next step is in order for them to again, live a happy life and be the best version of themselves.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Palikari Business Podcast. For more information about our guest, check out the links in the show notes. To connect with us, you can find us on Instagram and TikTok under the handle Hammond Cinematography, or just search Nick Hammond on YouTube. Nick and I are the founders of Hammond Cinematography, a video production company located in the Central Valley of California. If you'd like more information about us and our business, you can check out our website linked in the show notes. We'll see you next time.